Good afternoon. My name is Mary Westfall Holbrook, and I'm the Chief District Engineer for District 12 for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and it's my very honor and privilege to welcome you to this auspicious event on opening up the first 8 miles of US 460. This is a community celebration, not only for the Highway Department, state and federal, but the community as well, and we are so glad that you're here to be with us. My job is to keep things running smoothly, but most of all, to get us out of here before the school buses get here. So we'll move right along. Road building in East Kentucky has always been a challenge. Literally thousands of people have been involved in this first 8 miles and even the on to the Virginia line. But I want to just name a couple of people that I would like to bring special attention to before we get into the program. First, I'd like to thank Principal Greg, and if you would mind stand so that we could give you an applause. I would like to thank Principal Greg Napier and his staff here at Shelby Valley High School, especially Rick Thuck. Especially, just call out a couple of guys real quick, Ricky Thucker and Rodney Wright, the band director Mark Hopkins and that great band that we heard at the beginning, and the ROTC sponsor David Zollers. Also, I want to recognize really quick our D12 team. That's Terry Tackett, John Michael Johnson, Daryl Sloan, Sam Hale, Greg Couch, Judy Pafunda, Steve Roberts, Darby Hamilton, Paxton Weddington, Karen Parsons, Manette May, and especially Sarah George. We've been working for months on this. I'd like for you just real quick to give them a hand of applause. We have some very good guests on our podium here, but I just wanted to call out a couple of people from the crowd here that are with the Appalachian Development Highway System, and that's Ken Wester. He is their program director. Okay, and Guy Land, the Chief of Staff from the Appalachian Federal Highway. And also I would like to mention Michael Lloyd Zell, and he's a transportation engineer with FHWA, and Chris Hansen, the environmental specialist. And also I'd like to recognize the engineering group that without their knowledge and expertise working with the highway department, you wouldn't have the beautiful road that we have. I'd like to recognize Palmer Engineering. If you'd stand, let us applaud for you. And anyone that worked on the highway, any of their subs. Thank you. And just really quickly, before I turn it over, I wanted to recognize a couple of other people. Jeannie Robinson from the Pike County Judge Office, Chick Johnson, Kenneth Robinson, Leo Murphy, Hillard Johnson, Jeff Anderson, Chris Harris, and he's also a new elected representative for this area for the 93rd District. I appreciate you all coming. Also Fuzzy Kazee, Sheriff Fuzzy Kazee, I'm sorry, Daryl Mullins, Donovan Blackburn from the city of Pikeville, Leo Murphy, Virgil Osborne, one of our Board of Education members, Harold Keith Hall, our Pike County attorney, Ben Hale, and Tony Wilder from the governor's office. Thank you all for making the trip today. I appreciate that. And also on the stage, even though he won't be speaking, is State Representative John Short. A lot of you all may not know his face, but he's new to Pike County. And welcome. He's one of our new representatives for Pike County. And also, I was told that Dr. Hurley was here from New Pike. Okay. All right. So, and also I wanted to recognize Sandy Runyon with our Big Sandy ad. Thank you, Sandy, for coming. All right, if I've left off anyone, it's Sarah George's fault. First of all, I'd like to introduce my boss, and he is the Secretary of Transportation, Michael Hancock.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and it's absolutely my pleasure to be with you today. You know, and thank you, Mary, for those words of introduction. As I look around the crowd today, I see a lot of faces, a lot of familiar faces that helped us deliver the US 460 project. And indeed, this project was a massive job that threaded a new road between these beautiful mountains, between US 23 and Elkhorn City. And it's our goal to see this road completed on down to the Breaks of Interstate and ultimately to the Coalfields Expressway in Virginia. So we've got a good start at it here, and we want to keep things rolling along. So my job today, and it is indeed my great pleasure, to introduce to you someone who has kept the faith on the US 460 project and included section after section of this road in his 6-year highway plans beginning in 2008. He has championed quality of life improvements throughout Eastern Kentucky, joining with Congressman Hal Rogers in the Shaping Our Appalachian Region SOAR initiative. Without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable Stephen L. Beshear, Governor of Kentucky.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Wow, this is kind of a party. I like this. You know, I'm excited about being here at Shelby Valley High School because I like to be around winners. And I'll tell you, the last few years you all been teaching the rest of Kentucky how to play that game of basketball, particularly in 2010 when you took it all home with you. So congratulations to you. You know, not every road gets a big celebration when it opens. But this celebration is very appropriate for this new section of US 460. Most of us know that roads aren't just asphalt and pavement. They're really opportunity. Good, safe roads connect communities to each other. They connect families to critical needs like health care and education and food. But roads also bring jobs, short-term jobs related to the construction and the potential for long-term economic development. This section of US 460, the first half of a larger project, represents all of those things to this region. Drivers here in Pike County, as well as the entire region, have been waiting a long time for this day. We're opening a new US 460 that runs about 8 miles from US 23 south of Pikeville to Kentucky 95 at Marrowbone. It's part of a 16-mile corridor that will eventually run all the way to the Virginia state line north of Elkhorn City. This corridor is part of what is called the Appalachian Corridor System. That began in the late 1960s, soon after the Appalachian Regional Commission was established by Congress. So this road has been envisioned for almost a half a century. Now, after years of planning, construction on this section began in 2001, and it was a complex situation. Over 39 million cubic yards of ground had to be moved in order to build its 4 12-foot lanes, the 2 12-foot shoulders, and the 9 bridges. That's why it cost this first section about $283 million. The entire roadway from US 23 to the Virginia state line is expected to cost about $700 million, making it the biggest road project the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has ever undertaken east of Lexington. When completed, and it's projected to be completed in about the year 2020, the project will serve as the main artery that will connect US 23 and the Coalfields Expressway in Virginia. It complements our ongoing efforts to rejuvenate the economy of our region here. Many other infrastructure, tourism, economic, and workforce development projects are part of SOAR, which stands for Shaping Our Appalachian Region Initiative. SOAR, like the building of the new US 460, has involved many partners at the federal, the state, and the local levels, including our congressional delegation, the ARC, and the General Assembly. We're here to thank a number of those partners today, and you're going to hear from some of them. Congressman Hal Rogers, who couldn't be here with us today because he had a death in the family, has played a pivotal role in this project. Earl Gold, who you will hear from in just a second, the federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. One of the best governors this state's ever had, Paul Patton, played a huge part in moving this project along. Your local legislators, all the way from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Greg Stumbo, Hubie Collins, who heads up the Transportation Committee, Leslie Combs, who heads up the Appropriations part of the Transportation Committee, Senator Ray Jones, your county judge, your magistrates, your city officials, all of these came together to make this project happen. Not the least of those partners is our Secretary of Transportation, Mike Hancock, and your local Chief District Engineer, Mary Westfall Holbrook. Let's give all of these people a round of applause as we celebrate this project today. Now I want to bring to the podium one of those partners that I mentioned here earlier. Folks, it is a partner without whom we could not do these kinds of projects. It is the federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, Earl Gold. Earl?
Good afternoon. It is always great to be here in Issue, Kentucky, particularly with Governor Beshear, Governor Patton. I'm sorry that the Congressman is not here with us as well. He has been an incredible partner of the Appalachian Regional Commission and has been able to spearhead and provide great leadership for our work. You know, Appalachia really is the next great investment opportunity in America. We have entrepreneurs and we have emerging opportunities. And the challenge that we have is how do we make sure that we build the ecosystem, the economic system that is able to link those entrepreneurs with those opportunities? And how do we move forward? And it's a challenge that we all have. And being connected to the marketplaces and the schools and the hospitals throughout the nation is an important part of that. Today we get to celebrate one more step forward, a critical connection in making access, or providing access to those marketplaces with this additional 8 miles of the Appalachian Development Highway System. A public investment of $280 million, 226 of those from the federal taxpayers, the federal taxes that all of us pay. You know, when the Appalachian Regional Commission was first established a number of years ago, it was pretty clear to folks that an important part of the success of this commission was going to be about transportation and the ability to invest in transportation. And they sat down and they realized that the interstate system went around the mountains, but it was important to go through the mountains in order to connect communities like Pike County to the rest of the nation. And they took a pencil out and they drew 3,090 miles of highways throughout the 13 Appalachian states. And I don't think anybody really thought that we were going to get very far with that project. And I think they'd be really surprised today that, if you add up what's available to the public and include what's just about available to the public, almost 90% of those highway miles are coming to reality, are coming online. And the reason for that is because of leadership like that of Governor Patton, of Governor Beshear, and Congressman Rogers. And now today, some might suggest that 90%, that's pretty good. That's an A, right? So why go for an A+? I mean, what's the benefit? Shouldn't we just cut this off at 90% and wrap it up and go home and call it a day? But when you do that, by getting to the A+, that's when you get to projects like this one, that are hard projects. They're challenging projects, but they're ones that really begin to connect rural communities with marketplaces and really provide rural communities the opportunity that they're entitled to move forward and to grow. And secondly, by doing projects like this, we're able to complete a system for the nation. And they provide benefits to the entire nation. We know that when the Appalachian Development Highway System is completed, that the benefits will be 3 times what the cost was. That 65% of the freight that's going to travel throughout the ADHS is from outside the region. And that there'll be over $5 billion a year in energy savings because of the system. The importance of completing the ADHS is not only for Eastern Kentucky, although it is really important for Eastern Kentucky, but it's important for the rest of the nation. And that's so important to why we need to move forward. Now, over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to visit the construction site for the new 460 a couple times. And the first time I went, we drove down the highway and we stopped and we looked at these cement pillars that seemed like they were going up into the sky forever. There were these massive concrete pillars alongside the roadway, and it's like, holy cow, these are huge. And then we drove up the holler a ways and came around, and we looked down and we saw these little white spots. And those little white spots were these huge pillars that we had seen a few minutes before. Now, that's when you realize how much dirt had to be moved. And you realize the challenges that were going to be confronted. And you understood why it costs $286 million. It's one thing to draw lines on a map about where a highway is supposed to go. It's another thing, another challenge, to design that highway so it follows those lines. That's hard enough. And then to go into the mountainside and to follow the directions of the designers and being able to move the dirt, move the rock, lay the cement, and do all that work that's involved in getting the job done so that folks like you and I can travel through this highway and never even think for a moment about how hard it was to get this done foot by foot, yard by yard. I just want to take a moment here to acknowledge the incredible work of the designers, the engineers, the equipment operators, the guys who made the cement, the guys who poured the cement, folks like the Steelworkers Local 1451, and all the effort that went into providing this new key element, this new key highway for Eastern Kentucky. It's a job that's incredibly well done. It's an investment in the future of Eastern Kentucky that will pay dividends for generations. It's also one more reason why I tell everybody that Appalachia is the next great investment opportunity in America. It is great to be with you here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's with great pleasure, and it's always a privilege to hear from this man, that I introduce you Pike County's own governor, and now, or ex-governor, I'm sorry, and now chancellor at the University of Pikeville. Without his advocacy during his governorship, and as being the co-chairman of the Appalachian Regional Commission while he was governor, we might not be gathering here today. Could you welcome to the podium Paul Patton?
Thank you, Mary Ann. Hey! Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't get that kind of reception very often anymore, and it's nice. Well, it's good to be back home. And to you young folks in the audience, I want you to know that 20 or 25 or 30 years ago, I lived about 5 miles up the road, up at Penny Road, and certainly this is my hometown where my children graduated from Virginia High School, and I'm certainly glad to be back here today to participate in dedicating a monument. And that's what this road is. It's a monument. And I think that it's very appropriate that many parts of this monument will be dedicated to the men and women that have served in our military. That's another part of the program, but I think it's very, very appropriate. Again, to you young people, I want to say this is a monument that was built by us. We paid for it, our tax money, and we did it through government. This is what government ought to be about. I certainly had an opportunity to work on this project, as Secretary Hancock knows very well. When I was governor, I would say it wouldn't be more than a month that I would call the Transportation Cabinet in and say, what's the status of 460? And it was pretty anemic. But we managed to breathe a little life into it and got Palmer Engineering working, and by 2001 or 2, we were ready to start actual construction. And as we discussed this project, I said, let's not only make it a transportation corridor, let's use the waste material to promote Pike County. And I believe, Mike, there are 4 or 5 waste areas along this road, some of which will be dedicated to places for businesses to grow, and some will be dedicated to recreation, and some will be directed to home building. So this monument not only is a transportation corridor, it's going to provide opportunities for growth in this county for many, many years to come. And I'm really pleased that it really got started in my administration. And I'm even more pleased that Governor Beshear's administration has pushed it. You know, governors can start things, but if they don't get finished before you leave office, you better be careful, because governors don't adopt the other governor's children very easy. But thanks to Governor Beshear, not only is he insisting that our corridor to the southeast be completed, he's insisting that our corridor to the west, the Mountain Parkway, be 4-lane, and we appreciate you for that. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Gold, we do appreciate what the Appalachian Regional Commission has done. Many times we don't recognize it. Many times the public doesn't recognize all of these roads that have been supported through this partnership with the federal government. But much, much more than that. Water and sewer and infrastructure projects and schools and vocational schools, and just the enormous things that the Appalachian Regional Commission has invested in, things like the University of Pikeville's College of Medicine, heavily supported by the Appalachian Region Commission. So we have a lot to be thankful for today. I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you all, and God bless every one of you.
Thank you. As you know, Representative Hal Rogers couldn't be with us today, but his representative, Adam Rice, his field representative, has something to say.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Congressman Rogers couldn't be here today, obviously, but he did bring or ask me to come and read a letter that he had written on his behalf. Dear friends of Pike County, as your congressman and friend, I join you in celebration of this great victory for progress and connectivity in eastern Kentucky. Relocating and expanding US 460 to the southwestern Virginia border has been a highly anticipated transportation fix for the people who travel this road every day, many of whom have hauled coal, groceries, and other goods along this curvy, deadly route for decades. I applaud the partnership between federal, state, and local officials to complete this final stretch of the Appalachian Regional Commission's Appalachian Corridor system. In 2020, when the second half of this road is expected to be finished, we will see an open corridor for rural tourism leading directly to the Breaks Interstate Park. We will see new land become available for economic development opportunities. We will see new revenue options with our neighbors in Virginia. And most importantly, a safer road for our hard workers, our school children traveling on school buses, and faster response times for emergency responders. Enhancing our transportation system in eastern Kentucky is one of the many facets of the SOAR initiative that Governor Beshear and I have spearheaded to improve the future of our region. While some may say this road project simply is an asset for folks from Sookie Creek to Elkhorn City, this is another victory for our entire region. It proves that with hard work, regional collaboration, and bipartisan agreement, we can accomplish difficult tasks. Some of our challenges may take more time and money to complete than the flatter, more accessible parts of the state, but it makes us no less worthy of assistance and progress. To each family that is being honored with memorial signs along the highway and its bridges, we owe you a great debt of gratitude for these prized sons and daughters of Pike County. Each memorial sign is a reminder of the resilience, patriotism, and dedication that the people of Pike County have for this region and our great nation. We offer to you our deepest gratitude. Sincerely, Hal Rogers. Thank you.
Thank you, and please give our condolences to the representative. If I make it through today and only make one or two mistakes, I'll be doing good. And Sarah just pointed out that I overlooked someone, and it's my apologies. Stephen Mills, the Assistant Division Administrator for FHWA, is here, and I omitted him, and I apologize for that. Steve?
Okay. I'm supposed to speak into this microphone. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Mills. I'm the Assistant Division Administrator with the Federal Highway Administration. Glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to be part of the opening of 460 and continuing with the Appalachia Regional Highways. One aspect of this job I want to point out is, with the completion of this section of highway, this will bring Kentucky over 400 miles of Appalachia highways completed. That's more than any other state. 13 states are involved with the Appalachia region building highways. Most of those will never reach 400, but this culminates over since the 60s, all the highways being built. And if you look at the map of those highways in and around this region, from here, using Appalachian highways, you can get to Ohio, West Virginia, Tennessee, as well as most of the major highways in Kentucky, cities in Kentucky. As already been said, the Appalachian Highway System is a long-term investment in the growth and development of this region. Beginning in the 60s, Kentucky has steadily dedicated their federal and state highway funds to the completion of these highways. The states have choices in where they spend those monies. It may come from federal gas tax, but once it gets to the states have those choices in where to spend it. And you can see from the completion of this amount of highways in this region what's been important. And I'm sure you have your governors to thank and also Mr. Hancock. But I do want to take this opportunity to congratulate KYTC and especially District 12 and the engineers in District 12 on the opening of this roadway section and on exceeding that 400-mile mark. The completion of this section, as well as all the sections, took hard work of many dedicated engineers and individuals. It took folks from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Federal Highway Administration, and also the contractors. Many of them are here. You hear that price where they say over $200 million to complete this section. And that number is huge. It's hard to really understand how big that number is. One aspect I want to point out is if you start looking at the individual prices on the elements of the work that got built here, if you get all the way down to look at how much it costs to move 1 cubic yard of dirt, the prices that we got on these projects are some of the best prices I've seen in the country. And it is a really appreciated and nice to see the work. So thank you.
Now I have the honor of introducing State Senator Ray Jones and your Pike County Judge Executive Wayne T. Rutherford. These gentlemen are going to explain the signs that you see in front of me.
Well, first of all, let me say it's always good to come home. Some of you may know that I graduated from Virgie High School and am very proud, Governor Beshear, of not only what the basketball Wildcats have done, but this year the football Wildcats won the 2A regional championship, making it farther than any other team from Shelby Valley in history. But more importantly, Governor, Shelby Valley High School was the top scoring high school on the state standardized test of all the high schools in this county. So I want to speak to that. Growing up as the son of a United States Marine Corps veteran who fought in Vietnam, it was instilled in me at a very early age to honor the members of our military. It was not only instilled in me at home, but also at Virgie High School every year. And Mr. Napier will tell you we used to have Memorial Day or Veterans Day ceremonies, and we had veterans like Russell Roberts Sr., the father of Pike County Coroner Russell Roberts, who was a veteran of the Korean War, who would come in and tell us what the sacrifices that he and so many others made in those conflicts. People like Danny Burchett, who was a Vietnam veteran. And I distinctly remember the speeches that they gave. And I'm not sure even at that young of an age that I really appreciated what they were talking about. But we're here today to name US 460 in Pike County after two young men who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the Iraq War. And I couldn't think of a better way to honor their memory or the memory of so many thousand other servicemen and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice not only in Iraq but in Afghanistan and countless other wars and conflicts around the globe. Even before this road had been started under construction, in 2004, I introduced a resolution to name this road to honor Brandon Jacob Rowe and Gary Brent Coleman. Brandon was 20 years old when he passed away on March 31st, 2002. Brandon was killed when a piece of shrapnel struck him in the torso in an area that was not protected by his protective vest. Many people really don't appreciate the sacrifice of a 20-year-old and so many other 18, 19, and 20-year-old men and women. And then there's Gary Brent Coleman. Gary Brent, as we all called him, was one of the most prolific high school football players ever to come out of Eastern Kentucky. He was an all-state running back at Pikeville. Was the most prolific rusher, and may still hold that record, Gary, as the most prolific rusher in Pikeville high school football history. The Rowe family and the Coleman family are here today to join us in naming this road. Brandon's father, Milton Rowe, and his wife are here, along with his grandmother, Tennessee Sanders, and his aunt, Tammy Jones. Brent's father, Gary, and his mother, Janie, are here, along with his brother, his uncle, Eddie, and his grandmother, Ruby. And I am honored to have played a role in making sure that every time someone turns onto US 460 in Pike County, Kentucky, that they will remember the sacrifice that Brandon and Gary made so that we could be here together on a day like today. After today's ceremony, I would invite everyone to join us at the ribbon cutting just down the road. And at that time, you will be able to see the signs naming the road for Brandon and Gary. And also take a look at the signs that will be erected on the other bridges on US 460. Another group of folks who deserve our recognition and appreciation are the Korean War veterans. People like my friend Jim Wright, who are here today. A few years ago, Korean War veteran, U.S. Marine Corps veteran Claudie Little, and his grandson Justin Hamilton, who's a Pikeville attorney and Marine Corps veteran, began to lobby for a bridge to be named on US 460 to honor the Korean War veterans from Pike County who served this nation. The US 23 Interchange Bridge is now the Pike County Korean War Memorial Bridge.
Governor, platform guest, Senator Jones. Governor, first I want to thank you for you and Secretary of Transportation, Tony Wilder, saw him here today, for granting the Pike County Fiscal Court $300,000 of multi-county severance tax to do a comprehensive plan for the future of this new road. To you young people here today, that means for you in the future jobs. You know, we got thousands of acres back on top of these mountains with no access. And it takes millions of dollars to build bridges and roads to it. Under this type of construction, new road construction, you are left with access. So all of you young people here today, they have, and Governor Patton, who's on the Pike County Industrial Commission Board, and also Mr. Arnett with SOAR, they have a copy of this comprehensive plan. It is in detail of all of this approximately 185 level acres with access that we will have on this corridor. This will be the future of this county, this economic development corridor. So what an opportunity it is, and one more contract and our shackles will be off. We will have access to the outside world. And you will see growth, as it's been stated here today, from the ARC representative and from these governor and former governors. And folks, it's the leadership here and the leadership of this fiscal court, most of them are here today, that has worked hard to make this a reality and to take advantage of it. The first one we have is the Oliver J. Prater Bridge. I knew Oliver very well, knew the whole family. And I knew Oliver, and he told me about when he was a prisoner of war, when he was captured in the Philippines, and he was part of the Death March. We all have read and seen and know about the Death March. His best friend, John Ratliff, was held for 43 months before he was liberated and his friend was liberated by the Allies. I know him and his family. He loved this country so much. He's a representative of the Prater family, and what a representative that we have the right to be here today.
Jasper and Anna Justice lived near the bridge at Sookies Creek, named for them, running a mom and pop grocery store and offering credit during tough times to their friends and neighbors. Those folks helped a lot of people at a time when the economy was very, very bad in eastern Kentucky. And the bridge again at Sookies Creek will be named for them.
Next one is a family that I'm certainly familiar with, and that is the Silas William Uncle Buck Ratliff family. They own nearly all the property around the Marbone interchange. And his property is a lot of mineral has been developed by the Elkhorn Marbone Coal Company. He was a leader and an inspiration to his political party. He was a WPA foreman, and we know what WPA meant to us during the Depression and after the Depression years. He was a member of the 39th Kentucky Mounted Infantry. He had a brother also on the battle line during World War II. He and his wife, the former Sarah Coleman, had 6 sons, 3 daughters.
The Epling Family Bridge honors the late Ryan Epling and his mother, the late Veronica Johnson Epling, son and wife of John Paul Epling, brother and mother of Christopher Epling. John Paul and Veronica successfully lobbied the Transportation Cabinet to restore the exit at Wolf Pit to the road's design plans. The family still lives at Wolf Pit.
Next is Andy and Mary Carter. They bought property on Marbone Creek in 1945. At the end of the section of the highway that is open today, you will see the beginning of 2 bridges being built over Marbone Creek. The westbound bridge will span the property where the Carter's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were raised.
Miles Justice was an entrepreneur in the Maribone area. He owned Community Coal Company on Dry Fork of Shelby in the 1950s, and he owned the holler, he owned the holler where the bridge that will bear his name is located. He also had a restaurant and grocery store and lived on Shop Branch of Gardner Fork.
The next one is that I knew very well. I've had my feet under the table many times. Judge Mullins, Eldon, and Jolene Mullins. My Aunt Ruby were kin to this family on both sides. She was a Childers and he was a Mullins. So the entire married life lived at a home acquired near the bridge that's named for them. He was a United States Army veteran. They were both accomplished bluegrass musicians and writers and genealogists. He told me as much about my family and my background as anybody I ever talked with. They were also parents, as I stated, of Judge Darrell Mullen. Next, we have James and Pearlie Prater. I knew this family and know this family remaining. They lived for 54 years, raised 12 children in the spot where the new highway goes through Greasy Creek. The pillars of that bridge sit where the living room, bedrooms, and kitchen used to be. I remember the grocery store James and Pearlie operated. There was a blacksmith shop there, leather shop, and a lot of livestock. James Prater was a coal miner for 45 years, retiring from Republic Steel. He was also locally famous for his molasses making, and I can remember the smell and as they went around as they had the molasses making. They were both active members of the Old Regular Baptist Church.
The last bridge that will be named is the westbound bridge on US 460 at Sookies Creek. The bridge will be named after Noah Branham Sr., who was born on October 18, 1894, and passed away in 1975 at the age of 81. Mr. Branham was a veteran of World War I, was a coal miner who worked in both Virginia and Kentucky, and he operated a motel and restaurant for many years at Rocky Gap. He also served as a school trustee. He had 10 children, 3 are deceased, 6 of his children are here today, and we honor his service as a veteran of World War I.
Let's give them a round of applause. There will be time afterwards for pictures. To be sensitive to some people's schedules and, of course, the school, we will take pictures afterwards. As you're starting to realize, US 460 is a project held near and dear to many people's hearts. Besides those of here in Pike County, it's the Pike County people, however, whose property was acquired to build this road. Their family homes, their family businesses, the locations where they grew up, they raised their children, and lived most of all their lives. A lot of people bought in the head of a hollow so that nobody would ever bother them, and here we come with US 460. So we have someone who is very passionate about US 460, and he's here to tell us about the families of this road, and that's John Michael Johnson. He's the pre-construction project manager for District 12.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming to our ceremony today. This is something I've been working toward for 15 years, and I am so proud. I grew up on 460, just above the mouth of Marrowbone. When I was a young kid, 10 or 11 years old, they were planning the road. You know, this was in the late 60s, and the engineers and the surveyors, they would be coming out and doing all the measuring or whatever, and I'd like to be out watching them. And then they started buying right-of-way all around us. You know, families started moving, and you know, we were waiting for them to come and buy our home. And that was all my grandparents talked about for years. You know, the road's coming, the road's coming. Well, that offer never came for them. At some point, the project just kind of went on the back burner, and for many years, nothing was ever done. But you know, as my grandfather, near the end of his life, you know, he just said, son, one of these days that road is going to come. You know, little did I know that I'd be working on this project, and you'd be standing up here today, getting ready to open it up. But there's something I also want to tell you about that you don't really see. You saw some up here today with the dedication of these bridges and the names of the road. But US 460 begins here at Sookies Creek and goes to the Virginia state line near the Breaks Interstate Park. We end, I always call it the snake pit, if anybody's ever been to the Breaks, at the Laurel Shop. The state line is just up in that hollow. It's 16 miles long. Well, through this process, we purchased 417 pieces of property. And out of those, there were 240 families. 240 people that had to move from their home to another location. There was men like Mr. James Dameron. He lived in the head of Laurel Branch. He had his little house right on top of the mountain. His closest neighbor was a mile away. You know, he didn't want to go. He was perfectly happy where he was. Miss Esteline Coleman lived on Wolf Pit. Her brother was her neighbor, as well as her nieces and nephews. That whole family was moved. Miss Mary Beth Stiltner, she was actually the last house in Kentucky. She lived there with her husband, and her 3 daughters had homes right near her. There are 240 of these stories that I can tell. There are also other impacts that you don't see. We relocated over 200 graves. I got to witness several of these relocations, and you would have spouses, children there to watch their loved ones being moved to a new location. Another aspect of this property is the army of engineers, surveyors, draftsmen, biologists, geologists, right-of-way agents, relocation agents, appraisers, utility agents, and last but not least, the bureaucrats. Back in the early 90s, Palmer Engineering assisted the Cabinet in identifying 9 alignments for US 460 from Pikeville to Grundy. Kentucky's Governor Patton and the Virginia Governor chose an alignment that complemented the Breaks Interstate Park. Today, 24 years later, we are opening up this first 8 miles. The remaining 8 miles is about 75% complete. When completed, we will have moved an amount of dirt equivalent to 5.5 Pikeville cut-throughs. At the conclusion of this ceremony, I hope you're able to join us on our drive-through to what I think is the most beautiful stretch of highway in eastern Kentucky. I want to personally thank Mr. David Lindeman of Palmer Engineering. He's been there from day one, and I would call David all time, day and night, David, I need this. What do you think about that? He was always there, him and his company. They never said no, just when do you need it? Some of our contractors, like Mr. Lester Wimpy of Bizak Construction or A.J. Conley of Greer's, I would go out and ask them questions, you know, what do you think about this? Can we do this? Is this viable? Those gentlemen just helped me so much in developing these plans. Lastly, Mr. Kevin Dameron. He handed the reins to me of 460 in 2000. He guided me, stood right behind me. He was my biggest cheerleader in helping us get this project to you. Kevin left the Cabinet about a year ago, and if he'd still been here, he'd been right up on this stage with everybody else. It's my hope that when you're driving the road today, that you look at the sacrifices that other people have made to get us this beautiful stretch of highway, much safer than what we drive now. And again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, John Michael. And thank you to all the families and the owners of businesses affected by this project for working with us during this process to make such a wonderful project. As an engineer, I would be remiss not to share some of the interesting and cool things that have happened during the construction of US 460. And it has been a cool project. I know that's not a real professional term, but you know, it has been. There were 8 grade and drain sections, and what that means, that's the sections where we moved the dirt along this 8 miles. And we had 2 paving contracts so that we could put the blacktop down. As the governor shared, we've spent over $280 million. It's a hard number for me to say. But the construction began in 2001 with our last contract in 2012. Just to share some of the high points, the longest project was Section 1. That was 1.5 miles of construction, and that was done by K&K. The largest amount of material to be moved in one project was $8.3 million, and that was moved by Bizak Construction. On Section 5, we have the tallest and the highest cut, and that's from the roadway to the top of the hill, and it's 462 feet. So that's quite an accomplishment. And in Section 3 is where you'll find the longest bridge, and that goes over Gardner Fork. It's 810 feet in length, it has 8 spans, and in addition, it's one of the tallest bridges we have currently at 119 feet. Look forward to the next section, you'll find much taller bridges. We'd like to also, for the construction phases, I'd like to recognize the contractors on this first section, and they were Bizak Construction, Mountain Enterprises, Elkhorn Greer & Sons, and K&K Contracting. I'd like to thank the many subs that they had along the way, and they're all listed on the back of your program. Thank you to all of you for the good job and a hard work that you've put forward these several years. And then the last thing I would like to recognize as far as construction, I'd like to recognize the 3 gentlemen who have been the project engineers over this. They've worked tirelessly through the years. Unfortunately, our first one is the late Jay Watt. He passed away before the sections were completed. Then we have Chuck Childers. He finished Section 1. Chuck, please stand up. And then we also have Paxton Weddington. Okay, thank you. These are the guys that are out there during the rain and the snow, and they're taking care and making sure that these projects got finished. I'd like to move along, and I would like to, ladies and gentlemen, of course, and then the students here, I would like to know that you're getting ready to meet two of your most very important state legislators when it comes to road building in the mountains. Without these two, we would not be able maybe to get some of the funding that we do. I'll introduce them together, their names, and then they'll come up and speak. The first one would be the chairman of the House of Representatives Transportation Committee, Hubert Collins, and he'll be followed by the secretary of the House of Representatives Transportation Budget Subcommittee, and that's our own Leslie Combs.
Thank you, Mary. You know, having this ceremony here in this gym makes me look back in my prior life before being in the legislature. I wore the striped shirt, blew the whistle, and many, many ball games all over Pike County. We used to go to every school in Pike County, which at that time there were 10. But we could hardly get there from here because of the road condition. We had to start in early afternoon to get there. But now, thanks to Governor Patton, thanks to Governor Beshear, we could have gotten to any of those old schools with ease. It was always a pleasure to be in those areas. Virgil, I can remember you at Virgie, so it was always a pleasure to be there working with you. Another thing is, I want to thank the families of all these young men that give their life for us having the privilege of being here today. Our veterans here today have spent many years in wars and battles preserving our freedom. You know, we don't think of it sometimes that some of the other countries don't have an opportunity to do this, gather in a situation like this and enjoy themselves. You know, Eastern Kentucky has provided more people in service in wars than per capita than any other area in the country. And I want to thank them for that. I want to thank all of our people that have participated. You know, some gave some, and some gave all. And therefore, we're here today to dedicate this highway. I know working with Governor Patton, working with Governor Beshear, I'm thankful that they believed in roads, because we know that we needed them here more than anywhere else. And we're coming alive now. We're coming up with the rest of the state. We have as good a roads in East Kentucky now as a lot of areas in the rest of the states. And I commented to Governor Beshear the other day that, you know, before the Mountain Parkway, during the early stage of Mountain Parkway, a lot of our coal money was going to Lexington, Louisville, all in that area. Now with Governor Beshear pushing the 4-laning of Mountain Parkway, maybe we can bring some of that back this way to East Kentucky. So therefore, I want to thank both Governor Patton and Governor Beshear that it's been a pleasure working with them, and I want to continue to work with them and Governor Beshear to push the roads as far as we can to the east. Thank you all.
Hello, Shelby Valley. It is so good to be home, guys. You want me to, Sarah's giving me instruction, by golly. She does that so well. Let me tell y'all something. This beautiful day, being here dedicating this road, let me tell you, when I was coming down here from town and I saw that pretty new sign that said exit 15, 1 mile, exit 15, a half a mile, let me tell you what, that's the prettiest sign I believe I've ever seen, in addition to all these that are up here today. I, too, want to thank everyone who's had a hand in this project, and I won't, I think we've recognized a lot of folks here today who have been involved in one way or another. I also, like everyone else, certainly want to thank Governor Beshear, along with Governor Patton, for their involvements holding the highest state in this office and what they've done, not only for our roads here, but for our roads all across this state. And to Governor Beshear, in the position I'm in, they talked about that I'm Budget Subcommittee Chair of the Transportation Budget. Yes, for the House, I'm in charge of writing and drafting and working with the Governor's office on writing a road plan. And it has certainly been a pleasure to work with Governor Beshear and Secretary Mike Hancock on the development of this plan last year. And by golly, I think, Governor, Mike, I think we put together a pretty good plan for Eastern Kentucky. And it's already been mentioned to Mike and to the Governor specifically on this particular road project. It's like Governor Patton mentioned, sometimes, he thanked him as well, sometimes you might start these projects, but they aren't completed or they aren't seen through to fruition. But Governor Beshear and the Secretary have both made sure that at least in the road plans we've written, this road will be completed, and I want to thank them again for that because it has been a pleasure to work with them. One thing I want to do, earlier the Governor didn't recognize an individual up here on the platform, but I asked him not to do that because I want to make a special introduction of this individual, and I'll tell you why. And I kind of left this to the end because I'm going to get emotional about it, okay? Back during the redistricting that we had to do with the state legislators, and like I said, this is going to be tough for me, guys, because you all are family to me. And I'm standing here in front of you talking to you, Kojak, all of you all as though you're family, and I mean that. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. But during the redistricting plan, I got redistricted out of this area, and I lost this area. And let me tell you what, that breaks my heart. Now, don't misunderstand, I picked up some great areas, and I'm gonna love being there and working hard for those folks as well. But I want y'all to know something. I won't be far, and you've got my number, and don't you ever, ever hesitate to call me. But I want to make a special introduction of the gentleman that I've left you in the hands of. And let me tell you something, I have left you in good hands. Big John Short, stand up, introduce yourself to your constituents. I assure you he will take good care of you. Now, in closing, I want to do something that somebody's going to kill me for. But it's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. And I'm really, I mean seriously, he thinks it's a good thing too. He just keeps trying to tell me, Leslie, we can't do that. We can't do it. Now, I'll tell you what, we got a few more years to finish this project. And we're going to keep thinking about how engineering-wise we can do it. Mike, come here, just a minute. Come here, Mike. I said I was going to have a little fun with Mike, but I mean in all seriousness. Now, if you came from town today and you came from the south end going north, and you came down that beautiful hill and that sun was shining, we've got that mountainside that looks like a wedding cake. Yes. All right, and you come from the south going north from the Potter Cemetery, and you got that big, beautiful mountain. Looks like a big wedding cake. Now, Shelby Valians, I want you all to tell this gentleman here how pretty, how wonderful, and in honor of the people who have served our country, would it be to take a big American flag and put it up on top of that mountain and put a big line on it. Come on, yeah! We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. He says that it's more difficult to do than I think, but somehow we'll work on it. So there. Thank y'all. Bye, guys.
I knew nothing about that, Secretary. Just as we wind up, I just got to give you the instructions for the end of this. Okay, after the benediction and the retiring of the colors, we'll form a motorcade here in front of the gym, and we will actually go to US 460 and cut a ribbon. Kentucky State Police and I think some of the city police and yes, are out there, and they will help us get the motorcade started. And everyone is welcome. After we cut the ribbon, we hope to have an official drive through to Marbone, and then we'll do a U-turn at Marbone and come back to 23. Once we enter 23, US 460 is officially open. And just really quick, on behalf of District 12 and the Transportation Cabinet, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and sharing this day with us. And I'd like to say a special call out to the students of Shelby Valley. You have been excellent. I don't know what the principal threatened you with, but you were great. But also, when you get older, as myself, and you drive 460 with your kids or your grandkids, you can tell them that you were here the day that Governor Beshear came, the people from Frankfort came, the people from Washington came, and we opened this road. And you can be very proud of that. I'd like to thank everybody again, and most of all, want to wish you a Merry Christmas.